Turn off the bedroom light. Feel the emptiness of the darkness for a second. Now imagine a glow so soft, it feels like warm steam. So intense, it's like a mother's smile when she finally sees her child after a long trip. This unexpected brightness is described by people who, instead of taking their last step down life's hallway, passed through the door and came back to tell what they saw. Edgar Cayce gathered these stories and realized that contrary to the fear splashed across headlines, the final moment isn't a fall into an abyss, but a leap into an endless hug. I promise to show you, without unnecessary mystery, how this process turns even the smallest daily choices into a piece of eternity. First sign: bodiless continuity. The heart stops, but attention wakes up like a nocturnal animal, alert to every vibration. Many say they float out of their chest, see their own body lying there, a hollow cocoon, and feel as light as a released balloon. This is when attachment to physical weight dissolves. Those who've experienced it say gravity feels like a canceled contract. There's no pain, only surprise, like the first time you rode a bike without training wheels. While family members cry, consciousness notices that suffering doesn't fit this new place. Second sign: corridor of living light. It's not a movie tunnel with a flashlight at the end. It's a strip that pulses and breathes like fabric made of golden flashes and musical notes that sound like whale songs in the distance. Some hear children laughing, others smell fresh-baked bread. Everything leads to the feeling of home. Curiously, the rush disappears. Even anxious people find themselves walking fearlessly, like strolling down a familiar street. With each step, memories flicker like fireflies. The first bike fall, the laugh that made a friend spit out soda, that grudge you held onto that now seems like a bad joke. Third sign: panoramic review of your life story. There's no judge banging the gavel or audience demanding apologies. There's understanding. When you watch the scene where you yelled at the cashier, you also feel their shock. When you recall holding the elevator door for a stranger, you sense the relief warming that stranger's heart. This sensory dive is as quick as a flash and as vast as the ocean. After it, people return to everyday life, unable to ignore others' pain, because they've discovered the border between me and other is an imaginary line, like chalk on a schoolyard. Fourth sign: unconditional love as an atmosphere. Some describe this feeling as a warm bath, others as a cord that makes your shoulders relax. You remember all your mistakes, lies told out of fear, promises only half kept, and yet understand that none of it lowers your worth. This feeling seeps into every crack, stitches up old fractures, and takes away the urge to blame the world. Those who come back usually swap competition for cooperation, even in small things. Letting someone merge in traffic, praising a shy co-worker's effort, choosing to listen before giving an opinion. Fifth sign: familiar presences without words. Before loneliness scares you, your grandfathers who already passed appear. That aunt who told stories under the yellow ipé tree. Even the dog wagging its tail at the gate. They don't speak, but you understand everything. A kind of sweet telepathy without static. Communication happens in clear bursts of affection, so obvious you can't doubt it. If you miss someone who passed away, take a deep breath now and imagine this silent visit. Many stories say a sincere thought is an invitation that crosses dimensions. Sixth sign: free choice. After the reunion, a crystal-clear option appears, like water in a glass. Continue the journey toward horizons beyond the light, or go back to finish unfinished business. There's no order or threat, just a sense of purpose. Those who recognize an incomplete mission, taking care of a small child, reconciling with a distant sibling, finishing a project that inspires people, ask to return and get permission. The return, described as a dizzying dive, usually comes with a private promise to live differently. Maybe, without knowing it, you've already talked to someone who traveled this path and came back determined to sing louder, hug longer, and thank sooner. If any part of this has touched you so far, consider leaving a line in the comments sharing what stirred inside your heart. Your story might serve as a lantern for someone who right now is facing the night, unaware there's dawn hiding behind their fear. Also, quietly hit the subscribe button. That way, The next flash of wisdom finds you without relying on fickle algorithms. After all, every new attentive heart strengthens this bridge of affection between those breathing here and those who've already discovered that real breath never fades. Hover for a moment in that all-embracing glow. When the soul decides to move forward, the luminous road leads to scenes that shift shape depending on the feeling it carries. If relief lives in the chest, clear plains appear, with the ground like frosted glass tinted aquamarine. If thick guilt lives there, fog arises, making every step creak like wet sand sticking to your feet. Edgar Cayce called these places living molds. They don't punish or reward, they simply reflect. Imagine entering a room made of infinite mirrors, but instead of reflecting your appearance, they show your inner state. That's why some describe tall cities built with breathing blocks of light, avenues where thoughts flow like silent rivers. Others talk about shadowy valleys with no horizon, where the air feels like condensed fear. Nothing is final. Frequencies change, scenes change. In harmonious environments, you learn by walking. There are gardens that respond to curiosity. Just wish to understand a flower's life and petals open, revealing every cycle from seed to pollen carried by a bee on a distant afternoon. Study rooms float like bubbles, and inside, teachers display Earth's events in miniature, the rebirth of forests, the creation of first writing, the exact moment someone invented the vaccine that saved you as a child. These lessons don't use blackboards. The information comes as living images that enter through your pores. People returning from this journey almost always rediscover a passion for learning, whether trying a new recipe or patiently reading an old bike manual. But there are also dense regions. They appear to souls stuck with remorse, envy, or toxic pride. There, inhabitants walk hunched, as if carrying invisible backpacks overflowing with stones. They feel cold that no blanket can fix because it's born inside. The sun exists but hides behind thick clouds no one dares pierce. Still, hope blooms. Spiritual guides enter these spaces, appearing as bluish flashes inviting silent dialogue. They don't force anyone. They offer a hand and wait for an inner yes. When a repentant soul accepts help, the fog slowly clears, like smoke pushed away by the wind. This transition teaches two simple truths that apply here and beyond. First, shared pain lessens. Second, no step toward love is ever too small. Showing compassion is indeed these guides' job in every realm. Some take the form of calm teachers. Others appear as familiar faces to ease surprise. Stories mention mothers, fathers, childhood friends, or even that neighbor who always offered warm cake through the window. The choice of appearance builds trust. They don't preach sermons. They tell stories that serve as reflections. Maybe they recount a woman who left everything to care for strangers during a flood, or a little boy who shared his snacks without expecting applause. Each story resonates like a chord in the heart, nudging a personal change. Notice how, after hearing an inspiring example, you tend to act better without being told to. That's exactly the effect they create, felt raw and real. Another fascinating detail is communication without words. Words would waste time and might distort intentions. Thought is an arrow hitting the target immediately. When someone feels gratitude, the other receives an energetic hug, even before hearing, "Thank you." When doubt comes, the answer arrives as a flash of understanding that brings a relieved smile. Bringing this into daily life can start with small steps. Silence notifications and listen fully to a friend. Notice the nuance behind a short phrase. Grasp the real feeling instead of reacting to literal text. Those who've learned this empathy-telepathy from the other side come back incredibly attentive, noticing micro-expressions, offering the right words, unknotting ties that once seemed unbreakable. Within this transparent exchange, the idea of broad choice awakens. Each soul realizes that the future isn't a fixed iron track, it's a living web, rewritten with every intention. Some decide to return to a physical body to settle unfinished business, embracing an autistic child still seeking security, reconciling with a brother carrying heavy silence, writing a book meant to bring comfort to those dealing with loss. Others prefer to keep exploring subtle dimensions, maybe preparing paths for those who will come after. There's no bigger prize for advancing or trophy for returning. It's about matching purpose with the thirst for learning. Cayce kept insisting that, with this freedom, the sense of responsibility stretches like infinite elastic. The more you know, the more you understand that every thought shapes tangible realities. It's worth reflecting on how we mirror this here, on this seemingly ordinary Monday. When you choose to criticize without knowing the full story or hold on to grudges that could turn into dialogue, you build walls like thick fog. But when you listen patiently or celebrate someone else's victory like it's yours, you raise bridges similar to the bright avenues of spiritual cities. Maybe the biggest secret revealed by these stories is simple. Heaven and the shadow realm are continents that start with small acts today, shaped by intentions no one can see but everyone feels. If any image of these places sparked your imagination, share in the comments which part caught your attention the most. That way, we weave our own learning network, strong enough to cross screens and headphones. And if you're still unsure, here's a gentle reminder. Being part of this ongoing conversation by hitting the subscribe button isn't just routine, it's adding another brick to this bridge of affection that connects apartments full of errands to the vastness where nothing is lost, everything transforms. Next time, we'll open the doors to the universal library of collective consciousness and discover why shared knowledge fuels rewriting destinies without tearing out old pages. Take a deep breath and keep that spark alive. In the moment when the air feels like made of violin and silence, the soul discovers a library without roof or walls, living shelves of collective memory, so subtle they fit in a spark of thought, so vast they swallow whole galaxies. Whoever crosses this threshold feels questions bubbling up like soap bubbles, and before reason forms a sentence, answers land softly in the mind. It's not about reading floating books, but diving into an ocean where every drop contains stories of extinct peoples, healing formulas not yet in labs, chords Mozart dreamed but didn't write down. Realizing this breaks the myth of separation. It's like noticing the waves playing on the beach are arms of the same sea. Many come back from this immersion thirsty for learning, and more than that, for sharing. It's common to see people who had near-death experiences quit barren jobs, open craft workshops, start community gardens, or form study groups on practical philosophy. They don't seek applause. They just need to let flow the river of knowledge they felt inside their chest. This universal source teaches that ideas aren't the property of an elite. They circulate like wind, waiting for fertile soil. When someone accepts inspiration and acts, they benefit the whole. Think of the escalator inventor. One day, he noticed climbing stairs wore out elderly legs and decided to make it easier for hundreds of millions of tired legs without ever knowing most of them. Collective consciousness works like that. Someone picks up the idea, acts, and spreads relief in waves. And each noble act opens new wings in this living library. The gratitude energy recorded there doesn't turn into a personal trophy, but credit available for whoever needs it at the next crossroads. It's like the universe keeps a kindness savings account where every donation earns interest of hope. Recognizing this exchange cycle, the soul sees responsibility as an invitation, not a burden. If every thought travels beyond the skin and talks to dimensions supporting reality, cultivating kindness is like lubricating the gears of worlds. There's nothing abstract about it. When you take a deep breath, instead of snapping back at a fence, you stop the current of anger from spreading and, on top of that, inspire watchers to do the same. It's a domino effect, but going up. In a crowded cafe, giving up your seat to someone trembling while holding a tray is a small miracle that changes roots. The barista smiles, the relieved person relaxes, the noise drops a notch, and maybe someone in the back decides to pay for a stranger's coffee. The spiritual plan records this sequence as a harmonic score, and the music resonates in layers where time doesn't rule. In this context, choosing to return to the body or move on to higher lessons stops being about reward or punishment. It becomes a calculation of loving usefulness. Some stories speak of souls realizing, when consulting this archive, that the tiniest change in attitude, learning to listen to a child without checking the phone, visiting a forgotten neighbor, guiding an insecure colleague, would create waves capable of saving countless hearts from despair. Between staying in indescribable peace or returning to fragile flesh, they choose gentle sacrifice. Like an athlete who goes back to the field with a slight pain, knowing their presence motivates the whole team. When the return happens, re-entry is compared to a diver passing through a cold layer before surfacing. The body feels heavy, the senses seem clumsy, the clock runs fast. But something has changed forever. The person carries the memory of the sea of wisdom, even if blurry, and that colors every new dawn. Little annoyances, like long lines or rain on picnic day, lose their tragedy. They become gentle reminders that life, despite stumbles, offers a chance to polish character until it shines. Some come back with awakened artistic talent. People who never painted, suddenly expressing emotions in watercolor, or who never wrote more than a shopping list, now scribbling stories that warm strangers on social media. It's not a magic gift for a few. It's a controlled leak from that library without walls, tuned to the frequency the heart can handle. And we, watching these stories on screen, what do we do with this spark? Maybe it's worth trying an experiment. Before sleeping, close your eyes and thank 3 simple things from the day. The fragrant coffee, a message from a friend, the quick hug at the door. This act sends a direct message to the invisible weave of the cosmos. I'm aware of the gift. Gratitude opens the faucet of perception, and little by little, dreams gain color. Hunches become clearer, coincidences multiply. It's not superstition. It's fine-tuning with the field where everything talks. Now imagine if tens of thousands of people did this together. Each becomes an antenna spreading signals of welcome, lowering the volume of fear that sometimes darkens the social landscape. That's why a simple invitation appears here. Leave a comment sharing a small gratitude that warmed your heart today. By writing, you materialize thought, create a tangible record of this vibe, and help build a wall of light anyone visiting can touch. And if you're still just peeking from the outside, consider hitting subscribe like lighting an extra lamp in this collective hallway. That way, the next conversation arrives without searching, and you become part of this choir of discoverers in real time. Before wrapping up, pay attention to your own chest. Notice the steady beat, that very subtle drum that only matters when it threatens to stop. Each beat is a coded message saying, keep going, there's more. One day the beat will slow until silence. But according to Cayce and many other threshold travelers, the sound just changes frequency. The script doesn't end, it switches scenes. Knowing this doesn't erase the pain of goodbye, but colors the experience with meaning. Like understanding why each chapter exists in a long novel. So when the clock runs late, the bus is packed, or your boss turns away, remember all of this fits in a short sentence from the vast book no fire can consume. Life is a spiral, not a straight line. And every gesture, no matter how small, draws the next curve. If something here shook your certainties, take that vibe into your next conversation, your next look in the elevator, your next decision that calls for courage. You don't need a fancy speech, just clear intention. And come back whenever you want to recharge your heart. This community is growing to prove that, despite the clouds, there are plenty of people ready to be a bright light.